Welcome to Helios Education's 5th Python for Kids lesson. Today, we're going to be talking about if loops. So, remember how we talked about Boolean variables in the past? So, recall that Boolean expressions have two values. They can either be true or they can be false, and Boolean values are useful for making decisions. Comparison operators let us compare variables, and comparison statements that use these operators help us make decisions. So let's take a look at some examples of comparison operators. So we have less than or equal to, greater than equal to, and not equal to. So let's just say we had a statement. Let's say 5 is greater than 3. Is this true or false? This is true. 5 is not equal to 3. True or false? True. True again. 5 is equal to 5. True. Now let's take a look at some false statements. 3 is greater than or equal to 5. This is false. Dog is equal to 3. This is also false. So as you can see, it's very obvious which statements are true or false to the human eye. But for the computer, it needs to make mathematical calculations, which means that you have to be very careful about what statements you put in your Boolean expressions or in your if loops, which help us make decisions. So let's take a look at these. True and is equal to true. Now this is quite tricky. True and true. To my eyes, it looks like those two are the pretty same. No, this is a string and this is a Boolean. Therefore, these two are not equal to each other. So once you get that little trick out of the way, we can get right into if loops. Let's say we have a variable, that's 5. So we set variable to 5. Now really, this could have been any old number. This could have been 5, 500, 5,000, 15,000 for all we care. But for our purposes, let's just say that this one is 5. So if x is greater than 5, we print smaller than 5. If x is equal to 5, we print equal to 5. Else, if x is not greater than 5 or equal to 5, which means it's less than 5, we print greater than 5. So we have a little tricky opposite scenario going on in here. So let's look at our little key statements. We have if, elif, and else. So here's how this works. Python reads top to bottom. Much like you and me, Python reads left to right, just like you and me. So if Python sees multiple if statements together, or one if statement, it's going to read it top to bottom. For example, if this is true, if this first one is true, Python will not bother checking this one. Python will not bother checking this one. If this one is true, Python will check this one, but it will not bother checking this one. And if this one is true, well, then Python just wasted all its time checking all of them. However, in this case, we have if, elif, which is attached to this if, and else, which is attached to the if and elif. This is 1. But this rule does not apply if we have multiple ifs, just ifs together. For example, even if this is true and Python does not check these two conditions, Python will check this because it's another if statement that's separate. If this was elif or if this was else and one above it was true, Python would not bother checking this one. So let's take a look at this nice flowchart here that just illustrates what we said. First, Python sets our variable. It checks a condition. Condition true, go here. Condition not true, keep going. Condition true, go here. Condition not true, keep going. A very simple flowchart and a very simple conditional statement that's easy to remember and very, very useful. So we can also have nested if loops or if statements. And these are funny because they're actually even more useful. So always, decisions aren't straightforward, right? You can have multiple paths. Say I'm going on a trip and there's 2 roads, left and right. I choose to take the right one, but let's say there's 2 more roads after that, and more so. So these decisions tend to branch out, which is why if loops can also do so. Let's say x is equal to 5. Let's say if x is positive, then we do something, and x is negative, we do something else. If x is positive, there's other some things we could do if x is greater than 5 or x is equal to 5. These different scenarios, these if loops inside of each other, are what we call nested if statements. For example, x is equal to 5. And we know, is x, let's go down the flowchart. Is x greater than 0? Yes. So let's keep going down. Is x greater than 5? No. Backtrack. Is x equal to 5? Yes. So this is what we print. The output of this would be equal to 5. Very straightforward, very simple. Let's look at another example of a nested if loop. So we have x this time is a string, okay. If x is equal to words, which it is not, print, I know your word. And if it isn't, then we do something else. Let's look at x. Is x equal to words? No. So we go down and we go into the else. If len x is greater than 4, we print long word. Okay, so now we know what's happening here. What is len x? Len x gives you the length of x. Obviously, this doesn't work if x is 5, but if x is a word or a string, then the length of x right now, len x, right now is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Len x is equal to 4. So what this part right here is basically saying is if 4 is greater than 4, which it is not, then print long word. So in this scenario, we don't have any elifs or any elses, so there's nothing else to do in the case that this scenario is not true. So in this scenario, we have no output. No output because there is nothing else for us to consider, because none of these scenarios are true, that yields an output. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to tune into the next episode. Bye!